This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment podcast. And this is one of those guests where I think we could have carried on talking off camera for about 3 hours, but we decided to press record because I think this is going to be really insightful to our global community today. This is Dave Jenkins, who's the founder of Wave. And today we're going to be talking about lots of exciting things, basically around diverse talent pools. And I can't wait to introduce you to him. So welcome to you today, Dave. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, very good. Bit chilly, but it's all good.
Yes, we're recording this as we head towards Christmas in December 2022 in the UK, and we've had this kind of Arctic snow, haven't we, across the whole country? It's actually quite nice because it's quite Christmassy. But as we listen to this now, we're well into 2023, so let's hope it's warmer.
It won't be chilly. It'll be nice and warm. We'll be
warm thoughts, everybody. So for those not yet familiar with Wave, would you like to give us an introduction as to what you do and what your business does?
Yes, thank you, and thanks for having me on. So yes, Dave Jenkins, CEO and founder of Wave. Wave is now 22 years old, so we've been around for a long time. We are a recruitment technology business. We do a number of different things which we can get into, from building websites. We've got our own distribution tool and contract analysis tool, Wave Tracker. And we're a long-term media buyer as well. So we do a lot of things which we can get stuck into. Really, what we are trying to do is, and we're going to talk about it, creating a world where talent is never missed. We work pretty much solely with recruitment agencies, and we want to help them attract more candidates, more talent to their business.
Amazing. You can see why Dave's coming on our podcast, guys. So hang on tight. You're also a podcast host. Let's talk about your podcast.
Yes. Yeah. So Talent Matters. Check it out if you want to have a little look on it. It's good fun. You know, it's great to get guests on and talk to them about different things within recruitment. I mean, one of the reasons why we started doing it was because I think sometimes running your own recruitment agency or recruitment business can be a bit of a lonely place to be at times. So the podcast was designed to try and help answer some of the questions that maybe business owners don't want to ask or don't want to share with their peers or their networks or their employees. So that's the sort of the aim of the podcast, is to try and do that. And I just like talking, which will probably
that will become apparent. Well, I mean, look, seriously, that sounds like a podcast we all need to go and listen to and subscribe to. Don't forget to follow and subscribe, everybody. And I'm sure that there'll be some previous guests that have been on our show. I mean, we must be coming up for 200 episodes now, that would love to come on and share their insights. And I think, you know, my purpose as a podcast host is to educate our audience, our community, whether you're listening as a leader or as a recruiter, as an aspiring leader, maybe you're starting out in recruitment. But I think all we can do to elevate and educate and inspire and share our insights and our experiences. So I applaud anyone that does that. And so I'm sure there'll be lots of people listening that would love to get involved with your podcast. So make sure you connect today. We'll definitely be listening in. So yeah, that's great. And you know, bravo to you for doing that. So you actually mentioned, I think the first thing I want to talk to you about is that, you know, your business is to create a world where the talent is never missed. So how are we missing talent? Let's set the scene first of all.
Well, I mean, where do you start with that actually? And you know, there are so many areas in which I think we're missing talent, and recruiters are talent as well. So I'm not just talking about candidates, you know, as per se, but there are so many areas in which we miss out on people that could be the next big thing in your client's company, or for your business.
Yep.
But we're missing them in a number of ways, in just some basics in terms of not targeting, going to the right places where that talent is. You're not communicating the right messages to those people. You're not giving them enough information. You're not making it easy for people to apply. And then you've got other challenges around your being too narrow with the skills that you want and you need. You know, the kind of the aspect of someone needing X number of years experience, which used to be something that was a thing. Perhaps not looking at softer skills. I mean, there are so many areas in which we could be missing the next hire, the next placement, the next candidate. And it's, some of the things that we can do something about, some of the things, we can't. I mean, we're trying to solve a kind of almost one problem at a time, because we can't kind of cover it all. But there are lots of ways and lots of areas where we're missing out on people that we could have, but we're not communicating, too narrow. There's so many things that we're
So as a starting point, we need to have a holistic approach. That's what, from listening to what you've just said, it's not one thing, it's actually lots and lots of combined things. So it's understanding who is my target candidate from what you've said. So, and I think very often, certainly if we're thinking about it as a recruiter hiring for a business rather than for ourselves as an industry. So let's say you recruit software developers, you recruit head chefs, you recruit, HGV1 drivers. You think it's X, but it's about truly understanding what that person, that's a skill set, but that's not necessarily who your target candidate is. And I think it's two different things. That's often where our starting point is wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And we have a shortage of skills, certainly within the UK, and that's widely recognized. And yet we still pursue on being very set with the skills that are required to do this particular role. And I think one of the areas where I think a lot of recruiters are trying to communicate to their clients is to be a little bit more open-minded to the skills that you really need. Do they really need that particular skill, or can that be learned or taught or supplemented at kind of elsewhere? And so I think there's we need to be a bit more open-minded, with a bit more pragmatic is probably a better word, around who could come in and do an amazing job for that role.
And I think it's important that whilst we're obviously, you're a recruitment technology company, and it's going to be the technology that hopefully allows us to get those unicorn and the correct candidates, actually we do need to have this as the starting point, because it is around our role as recruiters to educate, to challenge, and to ensure that we are matching up not just on what the job actually entails, but who is going to be the right candidate for it. And can I just say, I've interviewed people from right across the globe around this kind of candidate shortage, sort of, this is what the market's like. It's not just UK, it's everywhere. So whether you're listening to this in the States, New Zealand, Australia, I'm sure we're all having a similar kind of headache. So this will definitely apply the world over. So I'm really pleased we've set the stall out like that, because that gives it real credence that this isn't just about using your technology, for example. This is saying from our role as educators to our clients and to as true consultants is to make sure we're understanding what that person or what the potential person is and who they are, rather than the skill set that they're actually going to do. So how do we then use technology to identify those diverse talent pools? Because that's potentially something that's more intuitive rather than algorithm based.
I think it's quite difficult, actually. And I think there is a tendency for us to want technology to do sometimes the job for us, in some respects. And so from a diverse point of view, I think it actually starts with the recruiter or with the client, and actually being open to looking at a diverse candidate. And that could be anything from location, we haven't talked about, we focused a little bit on skills there, haven't we? But also we've got location and remote working and hours and flexible working, all of those types of things. So it definitely comes from an education perspective. And I think we need to try and smash the concept that to do this job, it has to meet all of this criteria. Now, technology can help, because it can help you look in pools and look in channels that you may not have previously looked in. And technology can also monitor, our technology will monitor application data and hire rates, and can tell you where people have been placed. So it can also give you an idea that actually there is talent in these channels. So there is also, I think sometimes you don't want to be looking in, you've still got a job to do, so you don't want to be looking in channels that will never return anything for you at all. No. You still have to have people apply. But I think it starts with the user being pragmatic around being open, that maybe this might be a remote only role. Maybe we might have to sacrifice on education. Maybe we might have to sacrifice on skills, but actually the end result could still be someone that would do an excellent job in this particular role. So technology can help, but it doesn't and should never just do the job for us, because recruitment is such a people centric industry. And we've seen the challenges in the candidate experience when we take the people approach out of it. We see how the candidate experience just nosedives down. But you want to use technology to enable being able to look in these.
And we're not just talking about job boards. We're talking, from LinkedIn, the projects that people use when they're doing projects. You can use your analytics. I've placed a software developer before in Birmingham, and I can use the same analytics to look at people that could get to Leicester potentially. But actually, what's happening is that the market's so congested and saturated that people are getting swamped with emails, and it's still not matching up to the right, like you say, the right sort of potential, the right behaviors, and all the softer skills. So that's why I think there has to be this I guess this blend, or this marriage between how we use technology and the data and analytics, which I know we're going to come on to, but using our intuition, using our communication skills, using our consultative capability to ensure that we can influence and ensure that the right person is getting matched to the right role, but it might be somebody that you hadn't necessarily thought of.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's about where you invest your time. And as a recruiter, time is highly precious, because you don't have a lot of it. And so you want to invest your time. If you're speaking to a candidate, you want to know that they are the right person to be speaking to, even though maybe they don't completely match up, but you've got some of that skills. And then you invest your time in influencing and working with that particular candidate. And I think sometimes the challenge is, if you're trying to talk to too many candidates, some of which match up and some of which don't, you end up doing an average job across all of them. And that's where you can, you struggle to build relationships with those candidates, because you're trying to have too many conversations at once. Whereas if you can use technology to identify who you want to talk to, then you put your time and energy into them, rather than hedging your bets across everyone and doing an average job, hoping that one of them sticks.
So I guess using chatbots at the early stages of a recruitment process, matching up. So you're eliminating those that don't have any transferable skills or any of the basic essentials, and then actually using your consultative skills to narrow down a shortlist from those who do match on that.
Yeah, and it comes down, there's still a lot of basic stuff that we miss from from job adverts that don't have locations in, or salaries, or have any information in, to letting candidates know that they're not going to be put forward, from going back to your silver medalists and kind of talking to them and trying to place them elsewhere. There's a lot of stuff that we still don't quite do enough of. And I think that's where technology will help focus in spending the right time,
the right people,
with the right people. And so, you want to use technology to help, but you don't want to use it to replace completely what you do, because I don't think that will work, because it's such a people-centric business.
So reassuring hearing that from a RecTech founder. It really is. I just want to ask you something which I've not sort of prepared you for, but something that you've just picked up on there, and it gets talked about a lot on LinkedIn particularly. What are your thoughts around putting salary bandings on job adverts, and should candidates then be disclosing that when they're applying for a job, or should it be immaterial as to what somebody's currently on versus what the job's paying? What are your thoughts on that? And is there any data around that, whether there's a higher uptake on people applying for jobs when there's a clear definition on salary?
There's loads of data around it, and the numbers change, you know, depending on who's providing it. But it seems as though a job with a salary on it will get you anywhere, depending on who you listen to, from 20% to 40%, something like that, increase in response.
Right.
And it makes a massive difference. I mean, for anyone that's on the fence on doing it, you will get a significantly better response on your job ads if you put a salary down. And I also think you don't then have to, and I'm not a recruiter, so I haven't had to do this, but I imagine the awkwardness of someone that, you know, is on X amount of money, and then you say, well, no, you're going to be paid Y, and it's either significantly higher or significantly lower. It's a bit of an awkward situation at that point, because again, you've almost wasted your time talking to someone, or even just looking at the CV, if the salary expectation is way out. And I know it's a sensitive subject, because, you know, what if you've got someone there, and, you know, I know there's a lot about transparency of salary within businesses, but, you know, even if it is a sensitive subject, at least put a band in, at least give someone, you know, from this to this, and then it narrows down someone that's applying for a 30k job, and they're currently on 100k, and they think the job's going to be paid 100k. It wastes kind of everyone's time a little bit. So
I totally concur. I really do concur, and that's why, you know, I've had quite a few open debates with people around why I can see it's discriminatory to understand what somebody's currently on, but actually it's all about managing expectations. And, you know, on what you said there about, in some companies maybe there's no transparency on, you know, what somebody's being paid, and potentially it can then have a disruptive sort of consequence if, you know, if you're applying for a job externally that's paying between 40 and 50, and you're sat there going, hang on, I'm on 38, why am I not on that? Actually, there's a lot to be said there for your culture. So I mean, this has got a lot of a massive knock-on effect. Have an open, transparent culture around your salary bands. Just be open and honest about it. Whatever your company does, that's what you should be doing. So now, I'm really glad I asked you that, especially on data.
I think it just, and also from an indexing point of view as well, you know, being a bit sort of, you know, from a data perspective, if you advertise a job with a salary on it, then it goes onto a job board. The job board will take that salary, and it will help them to identify who on their database is suitable for this particular job. Good. So even irrespective of everything I've just said, it will help the job boards identify suitable candidates for that particular role. And again, you know, job boards get beaten and battered for generating applications that are completely unsuitable for the job that you've advertised. And that still may happen, but putting a salary on there will help do that, because it helps you know, simply in the same way that a recruiter will say to a client, right, tell me the details of the job. What's the salary? What's the location? What skills do you need? And then that recruiter will look on the database and look at who they have and try and match it up. Job boards are just the same. Exactly. So they just do the same thing. So if a client says, I'm not telling you the salary, it might be 30k, it might be 130k. You would say, well, how on earth am I going to find someone? And so it's the same thing. So you know,
it's really, really insightful. And, you know, apart from the fact that it might generate you more candidates if you're putting it on there clearly, it will then create benchmarking as well, which we all need. Everybody's always intrigued around salary benchmarking surveys. That's something that every sector needs. Now, I'm really glad I asked you that. So obviously you've got this very objective viewpoint with the clients that you engage with. what do you see people doing well? So, I mean, I guess we're following on from what we've just said. So those who get a good response, those who get a great return on investment, which ultimately is what every leader listening wants to know, what are those particular individuals doing well?
Well, just sort of, I'm conscious I've sort of strayed into some waters in the previous questions that, kind of almost outside what we do as a business. But so focusing on candidate attraction, which is what our strengths are in.
Yes, please.
The people that get really good responses from that do a number of things. So there's never just one source that you will use. So it's never just that one job board or just LinkedIn or whatever it is. So you need to have a multi sort of channel approach across the various different job boards. Spend time understanding the role, which means that you then write, a decent ad. The quality of job ads always keeps coming up with everybody within the industry. We've got loads of resources on our website about how to write, the right ad. So I won't go into that too much, but spend some time crafting an ad that almost you could look at it and say, okay, I know someone could read this and understand what they're looking for. We haven't left anything out. We talked about salary, location, skills, experience, what you're going to be doing, sell the company. So I did add a little bit into that. And then make sure that you're advertising in the right place. So, spend some time either speaking to the channels. Is it the right market, for one? Make sure your website is easy for people to find, easy for people to apply, easy for people to register. And then I think also the people that are doing really, really well are keeping those lines of communication open with candidates. So once they have applied, go back to them. It sounds so obvious, acknowledge they've had the application.
Yeah.
Tell them, even if there's no news, tell them you're still looking at it. Tell them you haven't put them forward. Communicate and keep communicating. Those are the kind of some of the companies that are doing well. The companies that are not doing so well, on the flip side, are the ones that are just chucking out adverts left, right, and center, not thinking about what they're advertising, not thinking about where they're advertising. They're just kind of pumping them out there in the hope of catching something, and then just working whatever's in front of their nose all the time. So not actually liaising enough with candidates and going back to them, talking to them. So they're the ones kind of doing a good job, and maybe not so.
Yeah, I was going to say the ones not doing so well are the ones doing the opposite. There's a couple of things there that I just want to pick up on. First and foremost, no news is news. Always communicate. Just put yourself in the shoes of the candidate. Yeah. It takes 2 seconds to do that. So I love that you've brought that up. Shout it louder. That's exactly what we should be doing. And I also think that, we will definitely make sure people can go and look at what you've just said there on your website. It sounds like you've got a huge amount of value to add to our industry. And thank you so much for doing that. How you structure and make it an inspirational read, but also factual and easy to follow. These are all basic things, but sometimes you do see adverts and you just think, you're baffled why somebody would take the time to do that. So, what's your call to action? What do you want somebody to do? And have a strategy about it. That's the thing, isn't it? Not just this splurge, I do hope that our industry is changing as a narrative, that this slinging mud at the wall, whether that's candidates out, whether that's job adverts, whether that's how you're trying to approach your talent short market. I really hope that we're shifting how we're seen, and that we are truly seen as business partners, both to candidates and clients. And that's where, technology can support us. That's the foundation to what makes a recruiter successful nowadays, but it's how you then use that technology. So I think everything you've said, that I applaud. I want you to shout it louder. Just to hear it from you, that is really powerful. So thank you for that. Now, we mentioned earlier on about analytics and data, and I think, there's so many tools out there that we can utilize to our advantage. I'm a typical recruiter in that my brain gets a little bit puddled, but actually even I've started to embrace it over the last few years, because you can then see where you're going to utilize your time, and time is the most important commodity. So what would your advice be in terms of thinking about the diverse talent pools that we're going to all have to think about? You know, we can't exhaust the same pools, we have to go more diverse. So how do we use, whether it's with Wave or whatever technology we've got, whether it's on job boards, LinkedIn, our analytics on our ATS systems, how do we use that data and analytics to go and identify or attract the future diverse talent pool?
I think it's difficult. I think it is that's really difficult to do, because actually, you know, the number of different channels that you can go to is vast. When you start thinking about a diverse workforce, you know, there are so many elements to diversity that is difficult. I think you have to look at the data that your technology is giving you, and whether or not, you know, that is quality of applications, number of applications, when people are active, when they're not active, and you have to also have the conversation, I think, with clients as well, to actually identify, you know, where the gaps are from a diverse point of view, because, you know, companies are also keen to kind of cover that. So I think it's really hard, but I kind of come back to my point before, is that I think it starts with the client, and it starts with education, to understand what you're looking for, and how that also can fit into the business. So I'm not sure currently that technology can do that well enough, you know. So there's lots of technology out there that will, you know, remove kind of gender bias from ads. It will also post into you know, diverse pools of talent, you know, which sometimes will work and sometimes doesn't. So I'm not sure at the minute there is enough of a connection between diverse talent and recruiters and employers. That connection isn't quite there yet, and I think perhaps that's something that the job boards could improve upon. You know, if you've got a diverse job board, for example, you know, how do you define a diverse job board? I mean, because we should all be part of the whole economy, part of the marketplace. And actually, the biggest places from a job seeking point of view are the main job boards. So the main job boards should actually cater for everybody, and put everybody on a level playing field, so to speak. So I'm not sure. I think the answer in this, getting a long way around to answer this question, but I think it's probably the job boards could do more to attract diverse traffic, so to speak, to their websites, and that's how technology can benefit from there. And then we go back to the education piece from a recruiter's point of view.
And then educating our clients. That was, do you know what? I love that answer, because you were really honest and open about it. And actually it's very factual, and that's the position we're in right now. So it's our role to hopefully learn from that. So I really appreciated you doing that. It was not an easy question to answer, I'm sure. What's in store for Wave in 2023? Seem to have lost sound. Where have you gone? I'll just pause. It's been really insightful having Dave on from Wave, and we can't wait to see what is in store next year for Wave. Thank you so much for joining us on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast.